Good morning. Welcome, everyone. I'm Angelina Carleton, the hostess of the Design Your Legacy podcast, where I look to distill the best practices, positive examples in action, and the best ideas to inspire you. As today's affluent are two-thirds self-made, I hope to invite a variety of guests from many walks of life and income levels to bring you their insights and experiences. These guests range from family office professionals, Hollywood directors, to those in Generation Z, as they each contribute their thought leadership to this subject of legacy. I hope to provide interesting guests who will challenge your beliefs with their strong bias towards optimism and how you too can value your life, time, and personal legacy. This morning, I have the pleasure of introducing Ken Attard. He is the founder of Mindset Malta. After successfully working with various clients over the span of 15 years, Ken now specializes as a mindset consultant, specifically helping frustrated entrepreneurs to adapt and pivot using his proprietary ARC method, allowing them to have more free time, guaranteed. Helping you shift your mindset to create the results you desire without a doubt, is one of his biggest passions in life. Ken brings to his clients personal experiences not only as a mindset consultant, but also as an entrepreneur, father, and human being like the rest on this planet. He has a firm belief that life is not meant to be difficult or a continuous struggle, but is meant to be fun and flowing, full of new experiences that are fruitful, abundant, and inspiring. Welcome, Ken.
Hey, thanks for having me, Angelina. I'm really looking forward to being here.
Yes, and we sorted the matter regarding you being all the way in Malta. So I appreciate your time very much, and I know you have a beautiful view behind you. But as the sun is setting, we just can't capture it on this particular podcast.
That's right, exactly. Because we're at right now. It's just getting to 5 p.m. and yeah, it started. The sun's just starting to go. It's still shining quite brightly. Actually, it's been actually a beautiful spring. Is sort of like here. The last couple of days, spring has sprung, as they say.
Yes. So in our previous conversation, we talked about mindset being a superpower, and I thought we could start off here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my firm belief is that mindset is truly your superpower. It's my superpower. It's each and every individual's superpower, and that's the way I look at it. For the simple reasons, one of the basic things is this: is that I find it amazing how the majority of people are totally unaware of how powerful their mindset actually is. And it's just an unawareness, believe it or not, even though in today's age, we have tons of information available to each and every one of us. It's amazing how, I can have more information available to me in one day than my grandparents could have had available to them in a lifetime. Yet, even with all this information available, many people, many entrepreneurs do not realize that ultimately the results and the experiences that you are having in your life are a byproduct of the way you are thinking, a byproduct of your mindset. So, very simply put, if you looked at the different areas of your life, and if there were particular areas, so if we were to look at 5 major areas being health, wealth coming into career as well, personal development, spirituality, and relationships. If we were to look at those 5 different areas, if you were to actually have a good close look at those 5 different areas of your life and say to yourself, you know what, there's a particular area, or there could be just a particular piece of an area where you still are not really, really happy with the results and the experiences that you are having. I can guarantee you that if you took it right back to the way you are thinking, and sometimes some of those thoughts are, let's say, unconscious or unconscious programs running, you take it right back to the way you are thinking, that thinking process, the way you are thinking is going to be is going to be what is affecting the results and the experiences that you're having in your life. What does this mean? Why does this mean that your mindset is a superpower? It's because you ultimately have control over it. so many entrepreneurs, so many people in general, because it all ties in, think that the circumstances, the situations happening in their life are the circumstances, and they have to, all of a sudden, they are uh, they're limited by these circumstances. They're limited by these situations. The circumstances and situations are dictating how your life or someone else's life is going to be. When in actual fact, it's how you are responding to those circumstances, to those situations. You can respond potentially in a different way so that you can get a different result, because circumstances, situations outside of yourself are always going to be there. They are going to be there. Yet how you respond to them is what can change. And
So,
this is what, and
so
this is
you
what
would,
a lot of people don't identify with.
yeah. So you would define mindset as a set of beliefs, or what say you?
What say me? I would say that mindset for me is the way we predominantly think. Now, the way you predominantly think is going to be tied in with your beliefs, because you think in a certain way because of certain beliefs that you may have. And what is a belief? Ultimately, a belief is a thought that you've thought over and over and over and over. Have I made my point yet? And
Yes,
over
yes,
and
kind of
over
like the movie,
until, yeah,
like the movie that's
until it
running.
becomes a belief. Yeah,
Yeah.
until it
So,
becomes a belief.
yeah. So why is it a superpower? And why do most people not consider it a superpower mindset? That is.
Okay, so why is it a superpower? Well, it's a superpower because you have control over it, and it will control ultimately the results and the experiences that you're having in your life. So ultimately, you have the control over the circumstances, you have control over the results and the experiences that you want to achieve in your life. To me, that's a superpower because you have complete control over it. Now, there are certain elements that you may not have control over, yet the way you respond, you will always have control over. And that's why, for me, it is ultimately your superpower.
Wonderful. So again, why in society do we not look at mindset underneath like a magnifying glass?
I like to call it the triple U syndrome, and the U being the letter U. And it's simply this: the first U is that most people will underrate mindset. Like I said, most people have heard about mindset. They've heard one thing or another. They may have heard an inspirational talk and said, oh, that's really interesting. And they say, you know what, I want to look into it. And they'll dabble into it for a day, a two, a week. And yet they underrate it, and they just put it sort of like on the shelf, just on the back burner, and say, oh, one day I'll get to it. One day I'll get to it. And no different than, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but have you ever bought a book and sort of just left it there on the shelf
Sure,
and
sure,
not read it and not
sure,
read it, right?
sure.
It's there for your taking. You just have to pick the book up off the shelf and start reading. And the same thing with mindset. People can learn more about mindset. And let me, just as a sidebar here, mindset is not rocket science. Anybody can learn about mindset. You don't have to have some extreme IQ to learn about mindset.
Can you
The
say that
second
one
you
more
of,
time? Because
yeah,
the it froze for a second. So I think you said
sure.
mindset is not rocket science.
That's it. Mindset. That's just as a sidebar. What I was saying is that mindset is not rocket science.
Hmm.
Anybody can learn about mindset. Yet, like I said, the first you underrate it. We underrate it. Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. It's mindset. It's there. It's interesting. One day I'll look at it. And because of that, most people will underestimate the second U of the triple U syndrome.
Okay.
So they underrate it and they underestimate it. Now, I want to let listeners off the hook. The reason you're underrating it and underestimating it is because you still do not have a strong enough belief in it. So coming back to beliefs, if you had a strong enough belief in it, if you truly believed that it was your superpower, would you really just leave it on the back burner? Probably not. And the third U of the triple U syndrome is ultimately because you underrate it, because you underestimate it, because you don't have enough of a belief, you underutilize it. And what happens when you underutilize it is that you do not have enough awareness of it. So you're not going about thinking purposefully. It's quite random. So one day is a really good day. The next day is a half, not sort of good day. The next day is a horrible day. And it's very random. It's no different than taking a rubber, a bouncy ball in a four-walled room with the ceiling and floor with no windows or anything, and taking this rubber ball and just throwing this rubber ball. It's hitting this wall, it's hitting the next wall. You don't know where it's going. It's hitting the ceiling. And this is how many people are living their lives, very, very randomly, because there's no purpose, and they don't understand the thinking process that actually goes on to create the results and the experiences that they want.
So it sounds like you're almost asking them to snap out of their hypnosis.
Well, dare I say, most people are asleep.
Yes.
And I say that with the utmost humbleness. And I mean that in the sense that, no one is better than anybody. I truly believe that. Just because someone may have a little more awareness about something doesn't mean that they're a better person than anybody else. Far from it. What you don't know, you don't know. Right?
Correct.
So if you haven't been taught, if you do not have that, if no one's ever taught that, and amazingly, and it's one of the things that got me into that made me delve more and more into personal development over 20 years ago, was when I started to learn, I realized, and I actually said to myself, I said, wow, this is amazing how they don't teach us this stuff in school. No one teaches you this stuff in school, right? And then when I discovered it, I'm like, how come no one taught us this stuff in school? So, if you haven't been taught, if no one's brought that to your awareness yet, as you're listening to this, maybe you're going to start to become a little more aware. And you say, okay, I'd like to look into this. But what you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. So before
it's as simple as that.
Yes. Wonderful. So before we get into the 3 roots of all evil, tell me again, why aren't we thinking as much as we could be thinking?
Why aren't we thinking as much as we could be thinking? For the most part, what people are doing, rather than thinking, they are reacting. So what do I mean by that? Because ultimately, coming back to beliefs, coming back to programs that you have running, programs you have learned, from a youngster. So between the ages of, when we're born to the age of 7, a lot of programs have been installed by our parents, by our teachers, by people were around. All of these things, stuff we've listened to, programs have been installed. So ultimately, because you have these programs running, many times, rather than thinking, you're actually just reacting according to the programs you have running. So very simple example, someone is upset. Being upset, being angry equals yelling. That's a program for them. The minute they're angry, they need to yell. They just have this compulsion to yell because that is the program they have running. That is what they have learned. So rather than thinking and saying, hold on just a second, before I react here and start yelling, let me just think about this for a second. Could I respond in a different way? Is there a different way of handling this? And now you're thinking. Yet most people simply just react. They're in a very similar situation to what they've been used to, and that's how they react. Someone does something really nice, you react, and you react happily, smiling, whatever it is. So, right? So rather than thinking, most people are actually just reacting.
Okay. So is that why some people are busy doing nada?
Some people are busy doing nada. I'd say potentially, and I'll tell you why potentially people are busy doing nothing. Simply because, again, programs they have running, what they've been taught. See, many entrepreneurs have been taught that if you want to be successful, you need to be struggling, you need to be suffering, you need to be sacrificing, you need to be busy all the time. Right? Because if you're not busy, then you're not sacrificing enough. You're not working hard enough. You're not suffering enough. So again, over the years, I mean, you can attend almost any entrepreneurial event and they'll always talk about taking action, which is fine. Yet sometimes they've taken it to the extreme. Like I've heard speakers or teachers talk about, not having any empty space, any white space in your calendar. Now, I understand where they're going with this, and they're saying to use your time well. Yet there is time to stop. There is time to slow down. There is time to just slow your mind down and actually allow time for inspiration to actually enter. You see, taking action is wonderful. Yet what I've discovered over the years is that there's a distinct difference between taking action and taking inspired action. And inspired action is so much more efficient.
Yes. So if entrepreneurs sometimes talk about something called the 10,000 hour rule, that somebody's got to invest about 10,000 hours before they are good at something, it sounds like what you're suggesting is, why not make some of that time encompass happiness and joy and inspiration? So it's not just being the mouse on the wheel or the workhorse.
Absolutely. I would, the 10,000 hours to learn something, you know what? With repetition, you do learn.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It only took me 5 years to become an overnight success.
There you go. Right?
Yeah.
Yet the thing is this, though, that's really interesting is that, like I said, what if you actually incorporated, like you said, within your day, a 15-minute timeout every so often, if we call it a timeout, a little bit of quiet time. So some people, rather than, I don't even talk about meditation immediately, I just talk about a little bit of quiet time, for instance. What do I mean by quiet time? I actually slow down for 15 minutes, just be present, just be very mindful, maybe just noticing my breathing, or just maybe just focusing on something, just really to slow my mind down. Why do I want to slow my mind down? Because if you are constantly thinking, if you are going, your brain waves are going very, very fast. When you start to slow yourself down and you slow down your brain waves, you can actually have a connection, call it with your higher self, with God, with the divine, Bob, Bill, Jane, call it whatever you'd like, something much bigger than you. And you're connecting. You're actually allowing yourself to receive potentially inspiration. That's why you could potentially be in the shower, just taking a shower after maybe a fairly, challenging day where you're attempting to figure out something. You just go in the shower, you're focused on the shower only at that moment, and all of a sudden, the answer pops into your head. That's inspiration.
Yeah. Yes.
You just got to notice it.
So I think what you're suggesting is that as a mindset consultant, why not have more of the happy stuff and the inspiration be included?
Absolutely. Happy is great. Happy is, when I say, what if, I mentioned before, struggle, sacrifice, suffering, which a lot of entrepreneurs associate with success. My whole thing is, what if fun, inspiration, easygoing, all of these things, now we can associate those with success. So now we're flipping everything. It's much more, let's say, efficient, if you want to call it, to wake up as an entrepreneur in the morning and be looking forward to having fun throughout your workday, through having inspiration throughout your workday, enjoying what you're doing, enjoying each and every moment that you have. Will you have challenges? Absolutely. I can guarantee you that you will have challenges. This is where you grow. For me, a really huge sign of success is when an entrepreneur, let's use an entrepreneur as an example, can actually be enjoying themselves while they're swaying through the challenges, through the stuff that comes up. If you can still have fun, still be enjoying yourself, even though you're going through the challenges, now we're talking about success.
Yes. I think you're almost pointing to changing the energy so it's not just suffering.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yet if you're going to continuously look at your business as suffering, looking at as sacrifice, I like to use the example as well. How many people enter a relationship with someone from the outcome saying, okay, I'm in this relationship, it requires sacrifice. Well, it's not exactly the greatest way to enter into a relationship if you think it's going to consist of sacrifices. Because when you come from a place of love, of joy, it's not a sacrifice to do something for someone. You're doing it out of joy. You're doing it out of love. It's no longer a sacrifice. So
Yep.
there's a whole different energy shift, like you're saying,
Yeah.
when you shift that.
Yeah. Because you're from that energy gets reality gets created.
Exactly. Absolutely. And the more you focus on, the more you focus on fun, what's working in your business, and inspiration, the more you are going to create of it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you are emitting that energy, and the energy that comes back to you has to be aligned with what you are emitting.
Yes.
So emit fun, receive situations, circumstances, people to have fun with. Emit sacrifice, receive situations, circumstances, people to create more sacrifice in your life. You
Yeah.
decide what you want. That's your superpower.
So it almost sounds to me like if you were an alchemist, you're transforming the energy of stress.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. You are transformed. And again, stress, when it comes to stress, more often than not, stress is what we build up in our minds, what the meaning we are creating on situations and circumstances. So you
Yeah.
can have two people, for instance, who are going to go on vacation, exact same vacation. They're going together. Okay. They're going on the same vacation. One of them decides, oh, they're going to worry. They're going to, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And I need to prepare this and I need to be ready for this. And then the other one decides, oh, wow, I'm looking forward to having so much fun. This is going to be a great vacation. I'm so looking forward to this. It's the same vacation, but the stress is being created in the mind. So you have control over that.
And thus mindset is a superpower.
That's right.
Yeah. So what are the three roots of all evil? Is that what you had mentioned before regarding the you?
No, that is not what the you is.
Okay.
I had heard about these many, many, many years ago. I believe it was through Greg Braden, actually. I think I had heard these. But the three roots of all evil, deservability is one. Many people, we talk about success and people talk about success, yet somehow, many think they don't deserve to actually have that success. They don't deserve to, let's make it really simple. They don't deserve to have fun. I
Yeah.
have a business, so it's all sacrifice, it's all struggle. I don't deserve to have fun. Well, yeah, you do deserve to have fun. You deserve to have the success or the joy, all of the things that you want from your business, from your life. Deservability. Many entrepreneurs, people in general, still are not at the point where they actually think they actually deserve to have the success that they want. So what does that do? It creates fear and it keeps them at bay from the success that they say they want, yet there's a belief that they don't deserve it. And again,
So they're
and I want to,
sabotaging.
and I want
Yeah,
to correlate this
self-sabotaging.
with want to correlate it with the beliefs and again the sacrifice, the struggle, and all the hard work. You see, because if many have the belief that if they're not working hard enough, they don't deserve to have the success.
Yeah, we can thank
Whereas what
Calvinism for that. Go ahead.
yeah. So so when easy success comes, it's like, oh wait, that was too easy. I don't deserve it. Well, yes, of course you do deserve it. You're creating it. The second root of all evil, again, ties in with this, is not good enough. A lot of people think that they're just not good enough. They're not clever enough. And I mentioned people thinking they have to know rocket science to learn about mindset and to have all the success that they want. So they think they're not good enough because other people are way better than them. And they start comparing themselves to others. And again, you're comparing yourselves to others, and you really don't know the whole story of the other person, especially today with all the facades that go on, when it comes to social media and all this. We think people are living these perfect lives, and they're living lives just like you, with all the challenges just like you. And sometimes it's potentially even worse than the situation you're in, yet people
Yeah,
are portraying this, and
behind
it's
closed
causing people
doors.
to think, it's people causing people to think, oh, you know what, I'm not good enough, look at them. And so that's the second root of all evil, is people thinking they're not good enough. And then the third one is a real big one. It really is a big one. It's been a big one in my life for sure, is trust.
They don't trust
And
themselves.
yeah, not trusting
Mm.
themselves, not trusting that, ultimately, you know, everything really and truly is unfolding the way it needs to unfold. And sometimes it just appears that it's not unfolding for you. It may appear like that. You might go, but why is this happening to me? Why can't I get this right? Or what? Yet things are, the universe is always unfolding for you perfectly. You are exactly where you are meant to be today. You are perfect exactly the way you are, and everything is unfolding for you perfectly. Now, if you trust that, if you truly believe that and trust that, then ultimately there really is nothing to worry about when you're truly trusting that. So trust is really, sometimes even in the business world, without a doubt, and I'll be the first one to say, like, 'cause this has been a big one for me as well. We're doing our best to, let's say, be successful and arrive where we want to arrive. And again, as a sidebar here, just to let all those up and coming entrepreneurs and seasoned entrepreneurs out there, you're never going to arrive. You see, because there's always going to be a more. There's always going to be a more. That's why, as much of a cliche as it is, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we've got deservedness, worthiness, and the ability to trust.
Trust. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if we're running movies to the very end in the back of our mind, how do we change that? And I actually almost thought about naming this podcast conversation, How to Overcome Fear, because I feel like people today are in such a hypnosis around fear that they're almost frozen and frozen like ice.
Yeah, well, they could potentially be, someone could potentially, if they're coming from a place of fear, it could literally stop someone in their tracks, without a doubt, especially if there's a lot of fear, right? So, what if I
So
love the what
alchemist
if.
Ken, how do we change that?
How do we change that? So first of all, like anything else, there is a process. There is a learning curve. There is, and one of the words that I love in business and in life is something called consistency. You see, it's not a matter of, thinking, let's use this term loosely here, thinking positive today and everything shifts. You see, it's a progression. It's a progression in the sense that, I'm thinking, and I'm going to use positive, but, I'm thinking good thoughts today, thoughts that make me feel good.
So it's like a
Whether
muscle.
that's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it again tomorrow, and I'm doing it again tomorrow. And then I'm learning something new today, and I'm learning another piece here, and I'm consistent with this. And for me, it's become a part of my life every single day. There's a bit more to learn. There's thoughts, time for me to be quiet every single day. How am I starting my day? And one simple tool that I'll give everybody here is appreciation. Take the time to appreciate what you can appreciate in your life, whether it's the sun shining, whether it's food in your fridge, whether it's having running water available to you, whether it's the bed you slept in last night, whatever, the relationships in your life, whatever it is, find time. Start your day off with appreciation. Do that every single day and watch. You would be amazed how things, situations, circumstances, the people you start to meet starts to shift. You want to change? Start with small. Be consistent. Be consistent every single day. To achieve life, you don't need to make huge changes. Sometimes very small shifts, one day at a time, will have huge results. Imagine every single day for 365 days, you made one small shift. What a huge shift that would be by the end of the year.
Okay.
And that's all it takes.
So what I'm hearing is, in order to break the monotony of that movie that's playing in the back of our mind, that conditioning, that programming, is to consider a morning ritual with gratitude to set the tone for the day.
I would absolutely suggest, and the reason I love to suggest this, and I actually like to use the word appreciation. Gratitude is wonderful. I almost like to use appreciation even more because it's a little more like forward moving. Right? Gratitude is for gratitude for something maybe I didn't have, whereas appreciation is for what I do have. And, a lot of people say, oh, so I should just be appreciative for what I have. Yes. And at the same time, eager for more. There's no harm in being eager for more. So appreciate what you do have, and at the same time, eager for more. And set the tone for the day, like you said. Start your day off like that, and you will be amazed how shifts will start to happen one after the other.
And I think that's something that anybody can do these days, no matter
Absolutely.
where they're at, their income level, whether they're struggling
That's
with
it.
depression or whatever it is they're facing in today's landscape. Okay. So before we talk about legacy, since this is a legacy planning podcast, I did want to dive into the topic that we got into the last time we chatted, which is, what if it doesn't go the way that somebody wants? And you had mentioned, sometimes when we choose a new way, we can honor new values and so forth, but there can also be a void with the identity. So I don't know if you want to kind of unwrap that for a moment. In other words, if somebody gets sideswiped in life with the unexpected, I know we've touched upon the superficial, but what about when somebody just gets sideswiped by a tragedy?
Well, okay, so yes,
And the
and
things about boundaries and control.
yeah. So again, so this can definitely happen in one's life, and I think it happens to the majority of people at one point in time in their life. Could potentially be, if you want to call it, blindsided almost, that maybe they didn't see something coming, and all of a sudden there are huge changes that occur. Now, on a bigger scale, ultimately, although maybe you did not see that coming, it was coming, and in one way or another, unconsciously, we have brought it in ourselves, one way or another. So it's always about being accountable and taking the time to look at yourself and say, okay, how have I potentially brought this on?
Okay.
Okay, how have I brought this on? Now,
so there could be a family business that finds themselves being wiped out. It could be a founder that has to step down and pass the baton to a next gen. I'm just throwing out a couple of scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Corporate
And this will
politics in the boardroom, the shareholders.
There's all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Yet at the same time, and I'm going to tie this in nicely with the trust that we were talking about.
Okay.
Because if I truly trust that everything is always working out for me, although right now it may appear that it's not, because you are looking at it from one perspective, you cannot see the whole picture, the bigger picture. And that's why I need to trust myself and to trust in a higher self that everything is always working out. And when I can do that, now I can actually look at the situation and say, okay, this has happened. I'm looking at the circumstances. Now, again, coming back to, how can I respond to this? What can I learn from this? And then take it from there.
Okay. So do you think that's hard to do because it means relinquishing control? It wasn't supposed to happen. It's not the right way. I'm still right, et cetera, et cetera.
At first, yes. And this is where, at first, yes, that's how potentially you're going to respond to that, right? Especially when you believe that something's being taken away from you.
Okay.
Okay. So, no one gets angry unless they believe that something's being taken away from them.
So I want to just point a flashlight here for a moment. So when you mentioned that people are reactionary many of times, if their boundaries get stepped on, if their values get stepped on, and then that creates a void. So I think what you're suggesting is either they can fill that void with good stuff, or that void is just going to be there the rest of their life as a new movie running in the back of their mind.
Well, potentially, like you said, if something gets taken away from them. So let's say someone all of a sudden is out of, all of a sudden we're holding a high position in a company, for instance, and now all of a sudden, for some reason, they are out of that company. Now, this is where the identity comes in, because if and attachment. So we're going to go into so many things here.
Please.
So identity and attachment. So what do I mean by that? If I'm holding a very high position in a company, and that has become a very big part of my life, a very big part of my identity in life, that I am so attached to that identity, the minute, for some reason, that is taken away from me, this is where the void comes, because I've been so attached to that identity. This is why I love to teach people to really not get attached to anything in this life, whether they're things, whether they're people, whether they're positions. Do not get attached to anybody, because your happiness, your contentment, your joy does not depend on anything outside of you. Neither a person, neither a position, none of this. It doesn't depend on that. Yet so many attach themselves to these things. And, ultimately, things, people, everything in this world at some point in time finishes.
In the cycles.
It's not ever, yet your spirit is never ending. It never dies. It never dies. And that's what you want to be connected with. So when
Not
all
the
of a sudden,
materialism, Ken?
now, what's really important about this, though, is that there's nothing wrong with material stuff.
Yeah.
This is where people get sort of like a bit mixed up. It's like they have to make a choice. They have to either be spiritual or materialist. Like, it's like you can't be very spiritual and still have material things. Of course you can. Of course you can. There's nothing wrong with it. And anything material is spiritual anyways. What do I mean by that? Well, it was manifested by a thought. It's a thought that became a thing, was materialized. So there's no harm in having things. Isn't it wonderful not to be attached to them? So wouldn't it be wonderful when you have a car and you're so not attached to this car that you know someone who needs a car and you go, hey, here are the keys, have the car, no problem. That's abundance. Because now you know what, I can get another car somehow or another. And you know what? This person really needs it. I'm not attached to this car. This car is not who I am. This position in my business is not who I am. Who I am is way bigger than that. Inside, spiritually, who I am, no one can take that away from you when you truly start to understand who you are. And I like to call it, some people call it the higher self, the true self. You know what I've coined it? I've coined it the umami self. The umami self. Now, I don't know if people umami in the food industry is very well understood. And the definition of umami is the essence of deliciousness. Your umami self is the essence of the deliciousness of yourself, of the real you. And when you are in touch with that, things don't start to bother you. Things of this world don't really start to bother you. You can still enjoy them. You can still be abundant in them. You're just not attached to them.
Very nice. Well, very good point. Well received. And I think that's important because so I'm going to shift it right now to legacy planning. So
okay.
That's a wonderful explanation. Thank you for making it so concise regarding mindset. And
my pleasure.
And so many people will think that legacy planning is just preparing the assets. What does a legacy mean to you?
What does a legacy mean to you? To me?
What would you like your legacy to be?
I would like my
mean to you?
Yeah, what I would like my legacy to be is this, and this is the way I do my best to live my life like this every single day, as much as possible. When I'm having encounters with people, I would like people to walk away feeling better about themselves than when we first started the conversation. So you and I meet, we happen to bump into each other, and we have a conversation, and you walk away feeling really good about yourself, feeling better about yourself than when we first started the conversation. If I can do that on a daily basis with whoever I am interacting with, that they can walk away and say, wow, I'm feeling really good. I'd like to be like Ken a little more, the way he looks at things and the way, if I can do that with people, and I say this with humbleness, without a doubt, you know what? That's the legacy that I'd like to leave, that I can impact people, that they can live a life of more ease, of more joy, of laughing more. I pretty well finish almost every video that I do with, you know what? Remember, this life is way too short. Remember to laugh a lot more every single day, especially when you can laugh at yourself. That to me is the legacy that I'd love to leave.
Wonderful. And what values does it get to honor?
What values did it get to honor? I'd say one of the biggest values for me is authenticity,
Okay.
freedom. Freedom is definitely a huge value on my list. Honesty, trust, and fun.
Okay.
Fun is a value a lot of people, forget about. It's just fun and waking up every day and saying, you know what? Okay, let's have a little fun today and see how it goes.
Nice. Very nice. So, how would you have legacy planning be fun as the mindset expert? Because some people will procrastinate and maybe never even get to it.
Okay. Yeah, I think what a lot of people have a challenge with are having those, let's say, difficult conversations.
Okay. Do you mean
You
we're not
know,
going to be
some
here forever, Ken?
That's right, right. So this actually came up for me not long ago. Actually, my parents are both alive. My dad's going to turn 84 this year. My mom's turning 80 this year. And I said to my mom, I said, you know what? I think it's time that we, maybe sit down and let's have a look at stuff that we need to go through so that it's not more difficult afterwards. And I understand that it's a bit of a difficult conversation because we're going to go through things and we're looking at stuff that we're looking at it because Ma, you're sitting next to me. I know you're not going to be here forever. And ultimately, you know what? I could go first. We don't know. We don't know. So I think it's people getting around to having those what we call difficult conversations. Yet,
And
you
having
know
them filled
what?
with joy compared to the struggle. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think you were honoring having those conversations now. We're honoring those people now, and just enjoy because we can take the moment to actually enjoy those moments and say, you know what? Look, this is what we've accomplished through our lifetime. This is what's happening. This is what we're going to leave. This is the potentially the legacy that we are going to leave. Let's enjoy this moment. Let's have this discussion. It's okay, and a lot of people do have a challenge with death simply because they think it's the end. It really isn't the end. What the way I look at it is this, our spirit never dies. It was here. It was living before we got here. It will continue to live on after we are here. To me, that means we're actually living the eternal life already.
Wonderful. These are some deep conversations that I think are important to have because if we just stay with news, sports, and weather, we don't get to like what I call the juicy topics of life, which is the meaning
Absolutely.
and the vulnerability and the connection and realizing one of the words you really like, that we are creators in a sense of our experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, it's an outlook. It really is an outlook. We're here. It's funny. I'll get really far. I was listening to a while ago. I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and he was describing. We look at a lifetime here, right? And when we look at the bigger picture, and the time span of our life here, if we looked at the bigger picture of the bigger scheme of things, it's like blip, and that's our life. It's like this one little iota of a bloop, and that's our
Yeah.
life, right? So
Yeah.
it's really short. Might as well enjoy it.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Ken, so much. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to share? And I'll close this out.
And, the only thought that I have, like, I'd love to offer your listeners a free gift
Okay.
if they'd like.
Okay.
They can, if they'd like to, they could simply go to successfulentrepreneur.now.com. And there they'll have a free consumer educational guide on stepping into the magic of the successful entrepreneur now. And that's completely free. They just need to opt in and they can have a nice little read there if they'd like.
Wonderful. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Ken, very much for bringing your knowledge that was not taught in public school growing up, whether that was yourself in Canada or my upbringing in Izmir, Turkey, and
That's right.
yeah, lots of topics they forgot to mention, which I think are very important to the quality of life, as well as thinking about the deeper stuff, which includes our legacy. So thank you so much for bringing your thought leadership to this subject. And I hope that listeners will reach out to you. And I know you do have a masterclass as well, because
Yep.
it's important that we are not so attached to the material things of this life. While it is good to enjoy them, you're right.
Absolutely.
There are some other dimensions we might be able to consider that can maybe bring us some peace of mind.
Absolutely. And it's been an absolute joy being here and being able to share this information.
Very cool. Okay. So on that note, in closing, I'm Angelina Carleton, the hostess of the Design Your Legacy podcast, as well as the founder of Legacy Planning, a boutique coaching and advisory firm based out of Beverly Hills, California, but international in those I coach. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please like and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please remember to rate and review, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ken.
Pleasure.